Welcome back, everyone. Today we're doing a head-to-head competition, a mashup between the Portuguese Golden Visa and the Greek Golden Visa. The Portuguese Golden Visa we've talked about quite a bit on this channel, and the Greek Golden Visa somewhat less on this channel. I would say that until fairly recently, the Greek Golden Visa was a fair bit less popular. They have changed some things over the last little while with respect to actually both of these. And so I figured I would go through a little bit today about the Portuguese Golden Visa and the Greek Golden Visa, share with you some things that you might not know, and dive into which makes the most sense in your particular situation, or at least what the pros and cons are for each of them. So let's dive in. Before we do, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button, hit the all notification bell. Thank you for being here. Welcome. I'm Michael. And if you are new to this channel, we are specialists in international tax planning, as well as global immigration relocation type services. So if you want to move to another country, get second citizenships, plan Bs, optimize your global tax, form companies offshore and around the world, and do international banking, offshore banking, all that sorts of things. Those are things that we are masters at, and we would be happy to help you. So if you would like help with them, please reach out to us. You can book a call with me, calendly.com/Michael-Rosmer. There's a link in the description below, or you can send a message through offshorecitizen.net. So diving in very quickly, golden visas, what are they? What's going on? Where are they attractive? So golden visas are essentially programs where you can invest money into a country and you can get the right to live there and be there for, really all year round if you want. And so that's pretty attractive for a bunch of people. Portugal and Greece are typically popular in large part because they also give you access to the Schengen zone, so you get access to most of the other EU countries plus some other non-EU countries, and that gives you people are typically restricted 90 days out of every 180 days that they can be there, gets rid of that, and so this is pretty attractive for many, many people. Plus, let's be clear, Southern Europe is a pretty attractive place in terms of weather to live. I was spending some time both in Spain and in Greece earlier this year, and it's really, really great. So now let's compare these two. So the idea is you have to make an investment. There used to be some quite cheap, they used to be investment-wise very cheap or very comparable in terms of price. You had 250,000 euros investment in the case of Greece and 280,000 in the case of Portugal was the lowest entry point. Portugal has since raised their prices. They have gone up to 500,000. There was a series of changes over time. And Portugal used to be able to buy property. They have more or less eliminated property from the options. Now you basically have to invest in funds now. On the flip side, in Greece, they decided that a bunch of areas of the country were facing too much demand, so they went from 250,000, this is all in real estate, to 400,000. There's been some talk about raising further. And so, your entry point is not as low as it was. This being said, if you're able to buy a property, the good thing about, in all these cases, is you're not losing the money. This is not a donation. It's not like if you go and buy Caribbean citizenship or something, you have an asset, and the asset is hopefully worth money and hopefully going to provide you with some return, which is excellent. If you're looking at a situation in Greece, then you're looking at a real estate investment. If you're looking at places like Mykonos, Santorini, etc., then you're talking about 400,000 euros. If you're talking about less popular areas, then you're talking about 250,000 euros. Greece is bureaucratic. There is a lot of hassles involved in doing things in Greece. And so a bunch of people dislike that part of the process. They would rather not have to deal with Greek bureaucracy on property. This being said, look, there's millions of people who own property in Greece. It's not unmanageable. It's just more of a hassle than it would be in some other places where it's easier to go through these types of transactions. In the case of Portugal, like I said, they more or less eliminated real estate. Why do I say more or less? There are some funds that are trying to do this get around it thing. I don't know how successful that will be. I'm a little bit cautious and telling people, I'd be a little bit careful there. But technically speaking, there are some that are saying, well, you're going to invest into our management company, and then at the end, you can get this property, and here's what's going to happen. We'll see. But for now, I would just make the assumption that, okay, you're going to invest the money, and the money's going to be tied up, and hopefully it's going to make you a reasonable rate of return. I mentioned in some past videos, from my perspective, there's some terrible funds there. There's some mediocre funds there. There's a few decent funds there. So if you're interested in our analysis, we've gone through and reviewed them all. Happy to share it with you, and you can understand our logic and see if you agree and make your own decision. You can again send us a message through offshorecitizen.net, and we can discuss it there. So that's the first part, is just the type of investment, real estate versus fund for the most part. The amount of investment, typically higher in Portugal, 500,000 euros. Then we can look at some other elements. So the process in Portugal is extremely delayed right now, extremely delayed. It will be well over a year before you get a golden visa for the vast majority of people. So unfortunately, that process, their immigration department is just like massively backed up. So not necessarily so great in this regard. Greece, more viable. You can go through that process. Yes, it takes, a number of months, but it's people actually can process and get through certainly much quicker than they do in Portugal, which is pretty crazy. In terms of the costs, I mean, there's some legal fees, some government fees involved. You're going to be in it for several $1,000s. If you're doing families, each person, of course, is an additional cost. And so there's going to be some costs there. Not unmanageable, but you kind of have to be aware, like, yeah, you're going to spend over the course of several years, tens of thousands of dollars, low tens of thousands of dollars, but probably tens of thousands of dollars to get and maintain those golden visas. Both of them are appealing for the fact that you don't have to spend a lot of time there. Typically, you're looking at like a week a year that you're looking at. Say people would go there for a week a year in Portugal. Obviously, it's a pretty nice place, so going there for a few weeks is not really a big hassle, but you do need to do that in order to maintain. They kind of have like renewal periods, so you get the visa, but it's not just like indefinite. You then have to, every few years, renew it, and you don't have to go through all the process again, thank God, but you do have to go through this renewal, and so as a result, that's just part of the game that is in there. Now, to me, the main advantage of Portugal and why I still highly recommend Portugal to many, many people is because of the fact that it can lead to citizenship. That's a big thing. In theory, can you get citizenship in Greece? In theory, you can, if you actually live there a bunch. But as a general rule, Greece doesn't like to naturalize people. It's just like a thing. Okay, they just generally don't really like to naturalize people. In theory, it's 7 years of residency. After that, you have to pass a Greek language test. You certainly can't be there just a couple of weeks a year. You typically have to be there a lot more in order to qualify. In theory, it's possible. Quite difficult. Like, expect to meaningfully invest yourself in Greece if that is the case. On the Portuguese side, it's much easier. Portuguese golden visas are one of the easiest access points to an EU passport. These are both, by the way, excellent passports. And so that's great. Very, very top tier passports. If you're an American, look, like this is better than US citizenship on like almost every vector. You get more visa-free access, you get more countries you can live in, you get probably better access to medical and other benefits, etc. Like it's a really good document. This being said, there are all these delays that you have to go through. Now the good thing is what they've implemented in Portugal now is from the time you apply, they start counting your time towards citizenship because they have people so delayed. And so that's really positive. It's a 5-year residency process to citizenship. You do have to pass a language test, although not a particularly high level one, so that's viable. And so people can go through and get that, and that's pretty attractive. Now, Portugal used to be partially really attractive because people would move there, maybe they would move there on a golden visa or something similar, and they would get the NHR regime, which was this very attractive tax regime. That's more or less gone. There technically is still an NHR, but it's not very accessible and the benefits are not very good. So for most people, that's out. So hence, Portugal is now a high tax place. Now the good news about the golden visa in both countries is you can have and maintain the golden visa without entering their tax system. So you could continue to live in Dubai or Thailand or Panama or wherever it is that you want to live and maintain this visa and work towards citizenship and not have to enter in the tax system. This is very good. The Greek side, by contrast, is certainly Greece is not a favorable tax place, although there are some things that have been improving in the Greek tax system, interestingly. In particular, one of them is the tax rate on dividends is quite improved. But what they do have is they have this 100,000 flat regime for taxes. Italy used to have that, but they've raised theirs now to 200,000. So, Greece is much more competitive. And if you spend more money on property, if you buy more valuable property, that tax can drop to 50 or potentially even 25,000. So that's pretty attractive. Like if you can buy a large enough property and you can come in at say 50,000 euros a year in flat tax, for a lot of people that's a very low tax. And so it might be worth thinking about. Now, there's a time limit on that. It doesn't last forever, et cetera, et cetera. I think I've done another video on it previously, but if not, you can reach out to us and talk to us about it. It's an option. Now, be clear, that's a tax that applies on your foreign income. Income earned in Greece is still taxable. So this is good if you have investments abroad. This is good if you have businesses that operate abroad. There are still various different rules like management control rules, et cetera, that you have to worry about. But potentially, it's actually fairly favorable from a tax standpoint. So I hope that's interesting to you. Of these two, I would say that the more common one that we talk to people about is the Portuguese one, mainly because of the fact that it has this leading to citizenship. However, if you were thinking to actually go and live in one of these two, I think Greece has become increasingly competitive as a place to live, both because the tax benefits are now commensurately better. By the way, they also have a thing for retired people, which is like 7% flat tax, which is great. And so, you can play out whichever one is best for you. I'd say it also depends obviously a lot on where you prefer to live. Let me know in the comments below which you prefer. If you're interested in either of those or any other programs around the world, please reach out to us and I will look forward to seeing you on the next video.